Hey there, gang, and welcome to Real Reviews. My name is Jamison Rabbit, and the man seated next to me has tirelessly renamed all of the constellations after Mortal Kombat characters. And his name is Mike Roth.
And if you live in the city, there's exact amount of Mortal Kombat characters as there is constellations. It's crazy.
That's pretty great.
Yeah.
I look up in the night sky, and I count the stars. I see the Scorpion constellation, little Raiden constellation.
Yeah, I see the Big Dipper, which I like to call, noob. I like to go to the obscure Mortal Kombat characters first. Yeah,
that's good. Good for you. So, Mike, we got a weird show this week. So,
yeah, we do.
This week there was really only one major film that came out. That was an actual film. So we're gonna mix it up this week. We're gonna do a little segment we call "Movies You May Have Missed." And we're going to talk about a bunch of varying movies. It's going to be a lot of fun. We're going to jam a lot of movies in.
Let's see if we can do this. This will be new for us, new for you. I'm sure everybody's going to love it.
It's going to be great. But the first one is the big movie of the week.
Yes.
The big movie, The Accountant, from director Gavin O'Connor, has a huge cast of really great actors. Ben Affleck stars as a man named Christian Wolf. Christian Wolf is he's a math savant who has kind of like high-functioning Asperger's, who is sent out to uncook the books for various nefarious people in the world. You also have J.K. Simmons, who is the head of the Treasury Department, and he is beginning an investigation into who this guy is. Who is this accountant that we keep finding? He blackmails one of his agents into working this case for him. Kind of a weird setup. You also have John Barenthal in this movie as kind of a heavy who's out beating people up, trying to get them to do what he wants them to do.
It's his career so far.
It kind of is. He's being the Punisher in this movie. Anna Kendrick shows up in this movie as a love interest. She is sent to work with Christian Wolf and kind of is the bubbly antithesis of his very robotic personality. John Lithgow is in this as the head of a corporation who hires the accountant to come in and find a leak in his accounting. There's millions of dollars missing. Can you find it for me?
I can't help to smile every time I hear John Lithgow's in something.
Yeah?
I really like him.
He's really enjoyable. And so, the movie is the accountant because it is kind of based around the Christian Wolf character. He is He's kind of a singularly focused machine. Whether it is accounting or killing, he has got skills, and he has very strict routines that he follows. Yeah. Everything is routine, and he has these rituals, including this weird bedtime ritual that includes like strobe lights and blaring music and like rolling a pipe across his shins.
I was assuming that is like a desensitizing thing. Yeah. He goes through the things that he hates so much for a limited amount of time, and if he could get through that, it kind of helps the rest of the day go by.
Right.
He does have some odd mannerisms, which I really thought Ben Affleck did a great job at portraying. Even when it comes down to shooting, you could tell he wasn't an action star out of character. He would shoot, and then there would be like this pause and shoot again, like it's part of he has to
just
do
what I do.
Yeah.
Everything is I do it exactly as I'm told, to perfection. There's no variance in anything in his routine, in the way he lives, in the way he performs. I mean, you see there's one great scene in this movie where he goes to uncook the books, and he rolls out all of these markers. He's like, I'm going to burn through all these markers and give me all of your files for the last 15 years for your huge business. I'm going to figure out where your money's missing tonight.
Yep.
And it is a great scene of him just rolling through and just throwing markers away. Burn through that marker, burn through that one. And there's a lot of flashbacks in this movie that you see kind of how he became, what he is as a person through these flashbacks of his military father, kind of really giving him no mercy.
Yeah.
Not letting him slide on anything.
His mother couldn't handle the situation, and she left, leaving the two sons to be under the military father's control. And their lives are so much more different than a normal child. There's
a lot of interesting things in this movie. I love Gavin O'Connor as a director. He's a phenomenal director to me. I was really excited for this movie. And there's a lot of this in this that I like. I really like the dichotomy between his character of the super kind of robotic, do things as I do, and the really bubbly Anna Kendrick kind of bouncing off of him.
Yeah.
I like those two because it was just the opposite sides of the spectrum. And I like the fact that he has to have his process in order to get things done. You see, at certain points in the movie, he gets thrown from his routine, and you see how that affects him.
Yeah.
When suddenly things aren't the way he needs them to be. Mm-hmm. I had some issues with this movie.
I understand.
Yeah?
Yeah. I think what you were excited about, same thing I was excited about. I think Ben Affleck, I think he had great chemistry with everybody he had to communicate with. I liked Anna Kendrick. I really did. I think the idea of this movie was really good. I liked Ben Affleck when he did eventually have a conversation with John Bernthal, and I don't want to talk too much about that, but I enjoyed that scene. But how they get to point A to point B, I didn't like. How this was written was really bad, and even though I love J.K. Simmons, I think the whole plot of the Treasury trying to find Christian Wolf should have been cut, and they should have concentrated more on the meat of the story, which was working.
Yeah.
I thought that the scenes where it went to the treasure to investigate, to find him, was really badly written.
They took a lot of shortcuts.
Took tons of shortcuts, and they were not interesting. They brought the movie down, and to a point where it really didn't need to be brought back down.
Yeah, I think I was really, really enjoying where this was going. I thought Affleck was phenomenal in this role. I like Jeffrey Tambor as the guy who kind of both sets him on his course while he's in prison, and also is kind of teaching him how to be human. Like, this is how humans talk. Like, try and act this way. Use inflection in your voice when you talk, and he doesn't understand it.
They needed more of that.
Right, and that was robbed, and you keep cutting back to the J.K. Simmons and his underling story, and at one point the movie, as you're ramping up to your final act of this film, the movie stops cold so that J.K. Simmons can have 10 minutes of exposition explaining his character an hour plus into the movie. Yeah. And at that point, I'm like, no, we don't need to stop. It almost reminded me very much of Suicide Squad this year, where you're rolling,
yeah.
You're about to get into the action. Let's stop at this bar and everyone explain their character now.
Yeah.
It's like, no, this isn't the time for that.
It's too late.
It's too late. And so there was that. There was a really obvious twist that came at the end of the movie that I thought I just kind of groaned, like, okay, I don't want to get into that. But then to play off of that, there was also a great scene in this movie where Ben Affleck's character shows real emotion for the first time, and I really like that. And we got that because of it. So I was really torn in this movie.
Yeah, that scene was a love-hate scene for me. Yeah. I hate how they got to that area, and we can't really talk about it.
I don't want to.
We can talk about our emotions about it, and I ended up loving it, but I hated how they got to it.
Yeah, that's very well put, exactly.
Yeah.
So I actually walked out of this the first time really upset. I was really disappointed because my expectations were here.
Yeah.
And I walked out and I was mad, and oh man, I can't wait to review this movie. So I went back and saw it again. But now with my expectations here, I actually really enjoyed it a lot more. I think it was, for me, a big case of I was expecting such greatness out of it. Yeah. And it didn't quite hit that level I wanted to.
And for people who don't know, you've been looking forward to this like
since
all
January.
Year round.
Yeah. I circled this was the movie. Over Rogue One, over any of these movies, this was the movie. Like, this director, one of my favorite directors, and a great cast, just can't miss. And I don't think it missed. I just think that it was just wide right of the target.
Yeah.
I don't think Christian Wolf would have missed the target. But ultimately, what did you give The Accountant?
I gave it a 3. I did like it. I really wish they took out some parts and worked on what was working a little bit more.
Yeah.
But I did enjoy myself. I thought it was a good movie.
I agree. I actually, when I walked out the first time, I was like, that's a 2-star movie. I was so mad at the end of it. But upon rewatch, I actually really enjoyed it. I gave it 3.5 stars at the end. Adjusted expectations, and I really enjoyed what they were doing. Ben Affleck he's good, man.
He's getting better with age. Where a lot of people, after a certain amount of years, you're like, oh, That's their shtick. That's all they could do. He gets better every year.
I really think that his transition to becoming a director really helped him see the flaws in his acting, and he seems to have gotten a lot better since then. I mean, he's not doing reindeer games anymore. He's doing good roles. No. What's the next movie we have on the marquee?
Oh, next movie is really not a movie.
Okay.
It is a stand-up. Kevin Hart, What Now?
Yep.
Pretty much, Kevin Hart, he has the biggest stand-up tour ever, 151 shows. He sells out a football field in Philly. Over 50,000 people went to this. The beginning of this...
You're showing a different movie over your shoulder. Look at that.
Oh,
that looks
no.
like a fun movie. Keep going.
Well, anyways, the premise of this movie is... The first 10 minutes, we got Kevin Hart trying to come up with the money. It's very much like Austin Powers, but really bad. And then it goes into a stand-up routine. If you like Kevin Hart, yeah, go ahead and see this. I don't think this is his best stand-up ever, but he's funny. And if you don't like Kevin Hart, there's no reason for you to go to this movie. There's no plot. There's no cinematography. There's no other actors. It's just Kevin Hart doing
concert
stand-up.
footage.
That's it. It's concert footage.
There you go.
Not really a movie. So we don't grade it. We're just telling you about it.
Yeah, because this is completely subjective if you like his comedy or not.
It's like watching a football game in the theater. It's not a movie.
Let's
it's
rate
a football
this football
game.
Football game. It's a 2.5 stars. All right, so the next movie that I have on the marquee is a movie called A Man Called Ove. You saw a little glimpse of it over your shoulder a minute ago. It is a Swedish film from director Hans Holm. And Ove is this guy, this kind of sounds, it unwittingly ties into The Accountant. Ove is this guy who has strict rules and kind of abhors anyone who veers from his rules and doesn't follow what he wants everyone to do. His neighbors and kind of everyone who comes in contact with him kind of alternately fears and despises him. His wife recently passed away, and after 43 years, he lost his job. And now he is faced with a quiet house and kind of has lost everything in his life. And you see him, right here in the trailer, you see him attempt suicide. And there are multiple attempted suicides for him. But even at one point, he has to stop in the middle of a suicide attempt to chastise some new neighbors. He's about to hang himself. He's like, what are these people doing? Well, they're disobeying, and they goes out to chastise these neighbors. He follows the same routine every day. He does the same thing. He makes the same rounds every day. But you find out that he's not just this curmudgeon who needs routines and things to make sense, that there's actually a reason for why he is what he is. And the movie starts to kind of flash back into all of these, his life has kind of been peppered with tragedy and love lost, and everyone he loves dies. And this Iranian lady moves in across the way from him, and she starts to kind of get him to open up and talk about his life. And these memories that he has that kind of, they roll out and kind of really portray him as a real sweet, misunderstood guy. He's got this weird obsession with sobs. Sobs are the greatest things in the world to him.
The sound?
No, Saab the car.
Oh, okay.
Sobs are everything. He punctuates his sentences by just muttering, idiots. Idiots. Everyone is an idiot to him. And it's a lot of fun. It's alternately like heartbreaking and heartwarming as you watch him. I mean, you watch this guy just sad, you know, and he feels like he's never had control of his life, and so he has to kind of put that control into the small space that he can, which makes him come off as a jerk. But it's the movie itself unfolds really beautifully. At first you want to hate this guy, and after a while you start to see where he's at, and I really enjoyed it. It's in Swedish, so it's all subtitled, but it's really beautiful, and it's a lot of fun.
Swedish?
It was Swedish. And so it's one of those movies that it's small, you know, it's a foreign film, but I really enjoyed it. And especially after coming off The Accountant, I'm like, oh, this is kind of a weird tie-in together. So I really, really enjoyed it. I gave it 4.5 out of 5 stars.
Oh, wow.
I thought it was a pretty spectacular movie. So if you can find it, A Man Called Ove is a really, really good flick.
All right, then that's currently circulating.
It is. I went and saw it in the theater this week.
Wow.
Yes, sir.
See, I'm doing a little thing.
Yeah?
Where it's kind of limited release.
Okay.
And in case you missed it.
Movies you may have missed.
Movies you may have missed. And kind of celebrating October, I'm doing a little bit of the horror movies. I'm going to do Neon Demon here.
I've heard of that.
This came out in June. This is directed by Nicholas Winding Refn. R-E-F-N. Please correct me. Yeah, it's not a name. Too many consonants. I'm not going to go too deep into this. It's a very highly stylized film. It's about this girl. She's kind of the country mouse. She comes into the big city to get a modeling career. Her parents died. She's 16. She's trying to make it on her own. She's lying to people saying that she's 19 because 18 is too much on the nose. 19 is the perfect age for modeling.
Okay.
There's a bunch of jealous people, the typical big city Hollywood type thing with the parties and the whatnot and the gorgeous people being jealous and stuff like that. Ellie Fanning, she plays the main star, Jessie. It's basically just her being timid throughout the movie until she gets guts, and then pretty much she dies in the end. It's supposed to be a horror movie. It's billed off as a horror movie.
Yeah.
I think Nicholas, he wanted to kind of copy David Lynch. I felt a lot of David Lynch in this movie.
That's a tough one to pull off.
Well, you have
even David Lynch struggles to pull it off sometimes.
You have the same kind of lighting, same kind of quiet people in the background, weird situations, but it doesn't quite come off as good as David Lynch. There's really not much of a plot at all. It's quirky. It's kind of beautiful to look at, but it's not beautiful creative because you've seen other people do stuff that looks similar to this. I end up giving it a 1.5.
Ooh, wow. Stay away from Neon Demon.
Stay away
Mike
from
taking
Neon
the bullet
Demon.
on that one.
Yeah, well, I didn't think I was until I saw it.
I've got a movie that maybe you haven't seen. It's a movie called Genius. The cast is pretty incredible. You have Colin Firth, Jude Law, Nicole Kidman, Laura Linney, and Guy Pearce. And it is a story about Max Perkins, who was the editor back in the 1920s. He was the editor for F. Scott Fitzgerald. He was the editor for Ernest Hemingway. And he was the editor for Thomas Wolfe. And Jude Law plays Thomas Wolfe. And this is basically how he meets Max Perkins. And he starts out by giving him a manuscript for a book he wants that is like 500 pages of just prose. And he says, no, we have to cut this down. And so the movie is this great battle and personality clash between the two. Thomas Wolfe, the struggling artist who is just starting to write, isn't anybody. And Colin Firth is Max Perkins, the guy who's been there and done that, and is kind of, okay. You also have these relationships that are faltering. Nicole Kidman plays Thomas Wolfe's wife. She's having issues with his obsessive nature over his work, and just a lot of really fun things. Guy Pearce plays F. Scott Fitzgerald. He's beaten down at this point. He is bankrupt and just barely able to write at all at this point. And it's fun and it's manic, and there's just all this stuff going on, and this resentment that comes between them, and this betrayal and all this. And so there's some fun in there. It just feels like they didn't quite have a grasp on what they wanted to tell, whose story they wanted this to be. You have Colin Firth you show his side, and you have the craziness of Thomas Wolfe, and then they now it's going to be the Thomas Wolfe story, and we kind of just forget about everything else that's going on. And so the movie just kind of seemed unfocused to me. And then I find out, I think it's a first-time director. And it kind of felt like that, wow, you've got an amazing cast, a great story, and you couldn't quite settle on what you wanted this to be. But it was enjoyable. I gave it 3 out of 5 stars. It's a good watch, just not spectacular.
Well, hopefully he'll learn something from this.
Yeah.
He'll do something better next time.
We shall see.
Yeah.
What else do you have?
I also have one more horror movie. A couple of months ago, Rob Zombie came out with a movie, 31. This movie is about this aristocratic type murderers. They dress up in Queen Victorian garb with the wigs and the makeup and stuff like that. It's a fancy party, and part of their fancy fun is they kidnap people and they hire people to dress up like clowns and chase them down and kill them. They have to survive 12 hours, and if they survive 12 hours, they win. Of course, they've never had a winner, so part of the movie is discussing what do you do with the winner. But this is a very typical Rob Zombie film.
Does his wife show up in this movie?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, okay, good.
Sherry Moon Zombie, she plays Charlie. She is one of the carnival people going from town to town. They ended up capturing her, and along with her other troupe that does a tilt-a-whirl or something like that. And slowly, one by one, they get killed off by hired killers dressed up like clowns. There's a little person that's a Nazi clown. There's
like this.
twin hillbilly clowns. Later on, there's like this German tank type guy with a sexual nymph, all dressed like clowns.
Huh.
It's almost okay. Now I'm gonna just get down to the beat.
Get right into it.
This is a cliche of Rob Zombie altogether.
Okay.
His wife, of course, is starring. She's not that great of an actress,
she's not.
but she's great as background. You have the Nazi theme, you have the clown theme, which are all things that Rob Zombie is really horrified of. Some of the things, the shots, the cinematography he uses in his other movies, which is great. He uses it minimally. He uses throughout the entire film. One of the types of shots I'm talking about is he'll have a scene going, and then it'll stop on the last frame, and it would be like a picture shot.
Yeah.
He does this in the beginning of some of his movies, and it's really cool. It gives it kind of an antique feel. He does this throughout the whole movie, so it loses its power, and it becomes a boring cliche. There's a lot of shaky cam. There's so much garbage in the background where even this maze doesn't feel that great. I think there's parts of it that's entertaining. There's parts of it that I'll remember forever. But I don't really consider this a great movie. Maybe if I was highly intoxicated with a bunch of friends, I would look at this movie and be like, oh, this could be fun. But if you are sober and trying to critique this movie as a movie, it's not that great. I'd say 2.5.
2.5 out of 5, right? You know, that's kind of Rob Zombie's film career in a nutshell for me.
Yeah.
Is 2.5 stars. Like, there's been some of his that I've really enjoyed, especially early on, right out of the gates. I really liked House of a Thousand Corpses, especially loved Devil's Rejects. And then it started to falter. And I thought the first Halloween movie was good.
Yeah.
I thought the second one was not. And then you get to Lords of Salem.
That was horrible.
Yeah, you're just like, we're stepping in potholes now.
Well, I think at the start of Lords of Salem, that's when Rob Zombie said, you know what? It's more important for me to have fun than it is to have a product that people will enjoy.
Well, in this one, I mean, this was his Kickstarter movie.
Yeah.
He raised money off Kickstarter to make this movie
And I
because
bet
he wasn't getting financing.
And I bet he had a lot of fun, a lot of his friends, his wife, all his ideas that he thinks is scary. It's all in this movie. I think this is the movie that probably sets Rob Zombie's mind better than anything else. But
he said this was going to be his most creepy movie ever.
It's not.
Oh, fair enough.
It's House of 10,000 Corpses.
I kind of want to check it out, though, still. It sounds decent.
It's okay.
And you say it's okay.
There is things that you will remember forever in this movie. A little Nazi that I think he was speaking Spanish, which didn't really fit the character
well,
that
you know,
much.
earlier this month, I did see some little sausages that were Nazis.
Oh, don't even remind me of that movie. I want to forget about that.
Got that going on. So 2.5 out of 5 for 31.
Yes.
Can you explain why it's called 31?
You know what? I probably should. I just don't know it.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
Because the numbers are all wrong. It's 12 hours to stay in. I don't, maybe 31 sounded evil.
Look, I'm not
12.
doing math. If that's what you're asking me to do, Rob Zombie, I'm not doing math to see your movie. I'm not trying to figure that out. So those are movies that you may have missed this year. We've kind of caught up on everything that we didn't cover.
And everything that we were talking about, it's not that we didn't go to the theater. They were just small releases. And now it's to the point where you could get it streaming on Amazon or whatever.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Mike, let's throw back to a movie. 2003 movie came out starring Nicolas Cage and Sam Rockwell from director Ridley Scott. Kind of tying in with The Accountant and My Man Called Ove. Matchstick Men.
Nice.
Nicolas Cage and Sam Rockwell. Well, Nicolas Cage is kind of the head of this grifting gang, a con man. He and Sam Rockwell are a partnership out there conning people. They've got all kinds of cons they work. And Nicolas Cage he's got some issues. He's got some OCD. He's got some agoraphobia. He's got a lot of things going on in his life. And through circumstances, he's forced to go see a new therapist to get his pills because he's off his meds and things don't go well when he's off his meds. And so he's forced to kind of deal with this therapist. At the same time, his estranged 14-year-old daughter shows up, says, "Hey, Pops, can I move in?" and starts to kind of join the gang, kind of, right?
Yeah.
She shows a natural gift towards conning people out of their money.
Mm-hmm. She's extremely interested in her father since, they just met. So it was really believable that how they met. She shows up. Of course, he didn't want to talk to the mother because, they didn't get along. They left on really bad situation. All he wanted to do was see his daughter, and his daughter had interest in them. It really felt a good chemistry between those two.
I really enjoy this movie.
Yeah.
I hadn't seen this movie since it first came out. And I remember really thinking, it was a pretty good movie, but sometimes they don't hold up that you remember. And I rewatched this, and I love Sam Rockwell. And he's great in this. But, this might be one of the more recent Nick Cage performances that I actually really liked and didn't just tolerate.
Yeah, same thing. I probably rented this out at Blockbuster way back when it was still open. And, I watched it. I probably enjoyed it. And I totally forgot everything about it while I was rewatching it this weekend. I was like, wow, this was a good movie. The story flowed very nicely. The chemistry between all the characters worked out really well. I think Alison Lohan as Angela, she felt a little bit too old to be a 14-year-old.
She was in her mid-20s.
She was in her mid-20s when she was acting. But this all plays out pretty nicely where, you could think that, and then at the end, you're like, ah!
Yeah. I dig this movie a lot, and I recommend it. I recommend going out and finding Matchstick Men.
Yeah.
It's a good con man movie.
If you haven't seen this, definitely give it a try. It's one of Nicolas Cage's better movies. If you have a copy of Ghost Rider and a copy of Matchstick Men, honest, watch Matchstick Men.
I mean, you could really put anything else in this hand. If Ghost Rider's in this hand,
yeah.
You can put whatever you want in this hand. I'm taking this hand.
Con Air or Matchstick Men.
I don't care what you put.
Am I one of the few people who don't like Con Air?
Con Air does not hold up like I thought it did. I rewatched it within the last couple of years.
Yeah.
And that was the one that I really enjoyed from that early 90s period, mid-90s period of his. And I was like, not as good. But you know what does hold up? Face Off. Same time period. I really like that one. And I don't like John Travolta.
I couldn't get into
that's a lot of crazy on set, and I'm in for it.
The only part that I really liked out of that is the Peach reference, and I thought the gilded guns were kind of cool.
Gilded guns are always cool.
But I mean, do I watch a whole movie for one reference and some
maybe
cool guns?
A future throwback? You never know. Next time we get a face switching movie, and those seem to come around a lot lately.
They
putting
do.
Somebody into somebody else's body. That's kind of a thing.
They might just reboot it. That's like the thing too.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah,
I'm in for it. So, all right. So, Matchstick Men. We say go check that out. Speaking of movies to go check out, the weekend of October 28th, we have one movie that will be in the theater that weekend. One singular movie. That movie will be called Inferno. It is the third movie in the Da Vinci Code trilogy, which I did not know was a trilogy until the trailer came out for this movie. But Tom Hanks returns to finish out the Dan Brown trilogy. Have you seen those first two?
I have. Have you seen them?
Not at all.
Not even the first one?
I saw the first one vaguely.
I read the book, and then I went to see the movie.
I read the book.
Definitely the movie did not hold up to the
book. No, I remember
that.
The
second one, it was actually pretty bad. Yeah. But, why bring something out that's bad out of the closet after this? This one could be it. This could be the good one.
This could be the good one?
This could be the good one.
It's Tom Hanks.
It's Tom Hanks.
He doesn't do a lot of bad movies.
No, he doesn't. He tends to really like this Da Vinci Code thing. They've been hooking him into this.
Yeah, I don't know. We'll see. That's the only thing out, so we're going to talk about it.
I'm sure we could find some other movies to probably review. I kind of like how we did this. It was a nice, quick,
We got some things going on.
Yeah.
Next week's show, we are going to have a ton of movies to talk about because next week we are going to have Jack Reacher. We're going to have Boo! A Medea Halloween. We're going to have Keeping Up with the Joneses. We're going to have, what's the other one? Denial. We're going to have, that might be it. Ouija 2. I don't want to forget your favorite movie, of course. Those are all going to be talked about next week. It's going to be pretty exciting stuff.
Is it considered Ouija 2?
Yeah, that's what it's called. Ouija 2. That's the title of it.
So this is a spin-off of last year's
Absolutely.
Ouija. That's
100%.
so weird. It
100%.
doesn't look the same.
And we're going to see all these movies at the place that's sponsoring this week's show and every week. Marcus Theaters, the Palace Theater in Sun Prairie. Thank you for sponsoring our show. We love seeing all these movies and talking about them. We appreciate you always being there for us with your dream loungers and your popping corn.
It's a very popular place. I think everybody has gone at least once. Yeah. If you have not gone,
go multiple
you
times.
have to try it. It is really great. Those dream loungers, the food, they got a nice little restaurant. Yeah. It's a pleasant.
It's good stuff.
Yeah, it's a pleasant.
If you want to find more from us, you can find us on Facebook. You can find us on Twitter. Real Reviews TV, at Real Reviews TV will get you everything you need. Find us all those places. We have links to all the other things that we do. But until next week, I'm Jamison.
I'm Mike Roth.
Thanks for watching.